I'm going to try to explain to you some more aspects inside of the books here. And the major aspects we can approach from this video is generally, in a very vague sense, how they came to be. How did I kind of come up with these things, and then how did they consequently go to where they went, as was described in the multi-dimensional mythology that I had before. How did that come to be? The major thing I want to just get out of the way is this wasn't like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do the most epic fucking thing that I could ever possibly do. No, it wasn't cocky like that. It was just, I don't know, it was let's make something, and the more you do it, the more things start compiling. And I want to get into this video how we have like the Titans and the Aeon. How do they mirror real life elements? When they were created, did they in fact, were they set out to be the same? As in, were the Aeons and the Titans mirrored after the real Aeons and the real Titans? Okay, I want to make sure the Titans model the Titans in Greek mythology, and I want to make sure the Aeon model the fallen angels explained in Gnostic beliefs. Like, no, it was never really that. But generally, it was an exploration of mind, and that's going to be the biggest component of this video, is like how I went inward. But how the outside stories of life and the mythologies, how do they affect where we're gonna go from here? As in the deluge stories, as in Sumerian stories. Like, how did this all like play in the mind and go into the book? Because I'm sure the more you learn about it, the more you'll say, wow, that mirrors this, oh, that mirrors that. This is exactly like the flood story, you know. Well, it wasn't all on purpose. It was my understanding that there's a divine truth hiding inside of our mythologies. And that's kind of where I'm going to go in this video a bit. It was always just kind of, I don't know, it just happened. This set of stories here was kind of established within this mind, within my mind. The only thing I could ever use, right? From outward appearance, it would be mirroring a lot of aspects of our world around us. And in our world around us, do we see many stories playing out over time, constantly hiding within other stories. So as they hide within other stories, do we begin to unravel some sort of small nugget of truth that exists going back in time to some kind of event, right? So the Titans and the Aeons, as it was said, they didn't mirror real life Titans and Aeons. They came about on accident. They came about in a sense of, I got a typewriter 4 years ago, and all of a sudden I was like, what do I type on it? Like, I don't know, just start typing. And then literally the first thing I wrote was about the Titans. You know, I said their arms, the Titans' arms outstretched and reached all the way across the known world. You know, all this, I don't remember exactly, I can't find the paper, I'm sorry. But it was something along those lines. It was so vague, and I was like, I don't know what that is. And I would go to Jacob and I'd say, I don't know, something about the Titans. He's like, who are they? I'm like, I don't fucking know. It just kind of came to me. And so together we'd unravel it. And then all of a sudden a little bit later, I'm like, well, there's a group of, what about mankind? Who are their gods? I can't just say they don't have any, because they exist. They came from somewhere. And so I thought, well, okay, let's kind of think about who their gods might be. And the word Aeon came to me. Hand to God, I didn't think, I'm going to mirror them after the Gnostic Aeons. This is going to be kind of the same thing. Fallen angels making their own creations. Blasphemy, right? It wasn't like that. It was just Aeon sounded cool. And when it hit me, I was like, well, let's just go here. So on my behalf, it was always just walking into the imagination blind, just kind of looking around like, oh, this is really cool shit. I'm going to start taking these things. I didn't connect it and say, you know, what you're doing here is you're walking into this realm and unraveling stories that have been there for thousands of years. And you're plucking parts of them out and mapping them into what your story is. You're doing that very same thing. That's all this ever could have been. But I didn't know that. I was being young and naive, and this was like, this would be kind of cool if I did all these things. I don't fucking know. But then, you know, certain elements, certain dark elements had to come too. Well, who's the bad guy? That was so hard to define, and it was a general understanding that there was a whisper. And I was like, that sounds cool, like there's a whisper. There's this quiet whisper. I don't know what that is, but over time it shaped and evolved and it became what the whisper is as we understand it now. So, the whisper, as I understand the whisper. When the Titans left the known universe and they discovered the black emptiness that lies outside of the ever-expanding universe, they discovered it was a place of no time, no light, and no anything. It was a void. It was voider than space in our material understanding. It was pure darkness. And they set about creating elements. They created time. They created concepts of realms and places and all this shit. And they were making the world. They were making this place. Well, the reason why they did it will be explored in the Forgotten series. But suffice to say, the whisper was this quiet thing watching it from afar. Now, this quiet thing watching from afar can only ever be explained as a essence of the Creator. And it was a major breakthrough when we discovered the whisper might be death itself, because it keeps calling for an end of everything that's happening here. And all those that serve the whisper, all those that hear that voice, hear that thing tantalizingly dancing in their mind, the song that finds them, tells them to destroy all of this. Is that the devil? Is that God? That's going to be up to someone else to decide. But in my understanding, that's God. That's a fractal element of God. You are doing something that's a blasphemy in the realm in which I made already. And you went outside of that and made something there. It has to come to an end. And he acts through this conduit, which I will always ever call the whisper or the promise. And that is this tantalizing sound when you're sitting there and you don't even know what's around and this music starts to hit you. It's, well, what's that? And it invites you in. And through fear, it gains access onto you. So through your own fears does it manifest inside of you. And from that, it gains what it needs to do through your own fear, and it's transmitted like a virus. My fear onto you. So we see that played out in real life all the time when groups of people are gathered together. We see the fear. When I'm having a bad day and I act out and I say something mean to you, and you go like, well, fuck you back. You know, and then because you got some shit going on in your life, and now we're allowing the whisper to transmit back and forth. It's this egregore that can grow. It sounds like it's an evil, malevolent being, but I don't know. I've never really seen it that way. I just thought in my mind, like, it's only doing what it knows how to do. It knows how to pass within the fear. That doesn't make it evil. What is evil at that point? Is that truly evil? And so that's something to understand when it comes to the whisper. I guess we should just get back to it, see what this fucking asshole has to say. It was just this essence of something that connects itself back to the Creator. And in that, it was some sort of conveyor to the Creator. It's like me detaching an emotion from myself, you know, and placing it in somewhere, and from that point, we can communicate back and forth. You know what I mean? Because the idea was it mirrors that understanding that I remember hearing a long time ago, where the reason there's subjectivity in mankind is so that God, through us, can see the multifaceted nature of everything that He made, subjectively, non-connected to all the other beings, so that He can encompass the whole of the beauty of the world. It was something along those lines. Now, I hope it's vastly clear by this point that I was just fumbling in the dark. I wanted to set out and make something. This world. I don't know why, I just fucking felt the compilation. Well, I just felt compelled to do this. And as I kept stumbling forth, I would blindly grasp on things in the imaginary. Luckily, I had someone to help me kind of unravel this. My cousin, he's such a logical person, and as I feel like I'm going into this other place and finding this shit, bringing it back, and I drop it, he would help me decipher it. He would say, like, okay, like, what were you going for here? Like, what is this trying to say there? How is this guy connected to that guy? What does this look like here? And as he was helping me sift through it, I would just like, oh, fuck. And I would make documents. I would write things out. I would explore it. I would sit down like, okay, you said the Titans made this place, but how and why? You said that there's realms that exist outside of this, how and why? And so I kept going through and stocking all this stuff and forcing it together and making a shape. And once we have the shape, we have the beginning of something that is starting to mirror a mythology. And I believe me, every time I'd say, like, am I doing this, or is this something doing to me? I don't know right now. It's so difficult to say. So, I mean, it's, what do I do from here? I don't know. We'll just keep going. We'll just keep making things. And so, at some point, it's all established, you know, in a sense. We have the world, we have the Titans, we have the Inaki, the Man, and Aeon, and the Whisperer. I was like, okay, we have a balance here. We have something. We have two forces. We have two forces kind of establishing their dominion and their will on this planet. And between them is this weird thing called the Whisper, but no one really understands what it is quite yet. Seems to be working in perfect order. Okay, so we have the low races, we have their gods, the Aeon and the Titans, and then we have the Whisper, then we have me, right? So I'm like, okay, the Whisper, is he connected to me? Or is he connected to a higher being that is connected to me? And so there's still some debate on that. It's like, do we have something that is a fractal element of myself? Because all of these things are. It's dimensional. It's taking the mind and splitting it into different fractions. So the Whisper, in a sense, would be my vehicle in which I pursue the, we could say, more fear-like elements of the world. Because whenever I write in the book, there's a lot of bad things going on. There's a lot of destructions of whole cultures. There's a lot of people being terrified. The world seems to be kind of ebbing and flowing, but it seems to be kind of going towards damnation. So that's always me working through it and trying to destroy this place. Now, one could say that the ebbing and flowing towards damnation is some sort of response to an understanding that I would believe to be like only God can make. But when man does it, when man makes artificial things, he makes AI and robots and all this shit, it's kind of blasphemy, right? It's kind of like, how dare you assume that you're a creator yourself? And I'm sure that influenced my understanding of me making this world. It's like, really, how dare you think that you are just the same as God? Because I think, like, well, isn't God just an author? Isn't he just someone that made this place and plays out all the stories and lives through all the people and speaks through them and works through them to understand and unravel the point at which he understands why he's there? Wouldn't that be it? But I'd always kind of punish that idea with like, no, you can't just say that. So there's got to be some darkness to this place. So in a sense, the Whisper is a conduit of my singular fear emotion. Now, Oapake and Dove, the Titan and the Aeon, who are kind of battling it out, you would think that is the gods of the lower beings, they're also certain aspects of the divinity of the world. So, like, Theus is the ultimate bad guy. He's Kronos, right? But imagine Kronos really has it out and somehow survived to see mankind come. Sorry, Theus would be Kronos / Zeus, right? But a more asshole Zeus who's really got it out. You know what I mean? Like, I do not like that mankind stuff. It was established in some videos that when the Titans came to find this place and make it, it was a picture world. Meaning, it didn't have a lot of, it was an image. It was a thing that was created to be perfect. And it did its job where it harvested the power that lies outside of the known universe as an endless source to be absorbed. Aeons were beings that came from the other world that exists in tandem with what that isn't. And that, honestly, that just plays on duality in its whole essence. I mean, as we live in this material world, however you want to call it, you know, the universe that exists all around us, This always seems to be, at least in our minds, a duality of life. There is this, so there must be that. If I do this, there's a reaction to that, right? Everything we know is reactionary. If I push you, you go back. If I yell at you, your feelings get hurt. If I kill somebody, I'm snuffing something out. I fucking shoot you, you die, you know? There's reactions in that sense, and there's reactions to if an asteroid collides into this fucking planet, it doesn't just go, well, you know, nothing really happens. Like, no, things fucking happen. So we understand that life is duality, in a sense. It all action and reaction, right? And that's the idea of through the nothingness, which can exist, is outside of duality. So it's like, in truth, it doesn't need its own, and it doesn't need a secondary area. This is nothing. How are you going to put nothing next to something? But that in and of itself is a duality. So from nothing to something. But the something was something that existed in a way we can't understand it. And I just kind of refer to it as the other world, because I can't make sense of it now. But yes, in many ways, it does reflect aspects of the Celtic otherworld. I think they were onto something there. This otherworldly place is a holding place of multitude of beings we can't comprehend. And so we'll see the Titans create the circles out of that. I've already told you the circles are. I swear to God if I have to talk about it again. That is a multi-dimensional process of, as it's going to be described in the Forgotten series, it's the process of, oh, we can ascend these beings back into the known universe. That must be what we're here for. We have to take these beings that lie outside in the darkness of nothing we've discovered into another world. We need to birth them back into the universe. That's got to be our job. God must want us to do that. He needs help. As if he did. And that was the whole point of it. So, duality. From nothing, there's something. And in that is a choice. And that's also going to mirror the way the circle works. So, anyway, let's go back to what he's saying. So, we have the known universe that we exist in. The Titans found the edge of our universe where they basically found the point from which the universe is growing. When they went outside it, they left time and space, right? Titans did. In that, they had to create structure. And I've showed you that motherfucking thing before, where how it works. And they created the chains of time. They created past and future. They created the transcendence. They created the realms that it can exist. They thought. But one of the realms had what was at that time called the AOC, which they became the Aeon. Now that they're the Aeon, they kind of have a divine race, because when they were let through by Dove, the betrayer of the Titans, Dove, the Prometheus of this story, when he let these Aeon through and they came to the mortal plane, slowly they become mortal beings. Higher beings of themselves, but they were seeking to make more of themselves. And that was a process which made the lower beings, like what Eris is and all that shit. All of this is a great response to something within me that I can't explain. So the Whisper, the Aeons, the Titans, all this stuff was made as a response to a world we're making, right? I kept seeing connections here, and there, and I was like, man, I'm stumbling in the dark, I'm coming up with something. But what is all this for? What is all this for? Something I would dwell on. I'd be like, okay, I'm making this shit, but what's this fucking for? What's the fucking point of this? So then I started thinking about it. Then I started realizing something more happening. I went back to real life again, and I thought, like, what is something our stories keep saying over and over and over again? Let's let Asshole tell you. I believe that events have happened on this planet multiple times, right? A modern example that could get you thinking about that would be if you play like Mass Effect games. And they talk about these Reapers that keep coming back and wiping out the entire population of the galaxy. And wiping it out so it has to restart. Wiping it out so it has to restart. That was born from probably something else, which was born from everyone's belief of the flood story. Everyone's belief that the world has been wiped out. But you go back to like a story by Plato called Timaeus, and Timaeus explains, yeah, the flood, the deluge happened, but it's happened countless times before that. And he goes into Atlantis, right? I'm sure that's the Protheans mirror and the whole Prometheus, and there's a whole thing about it. When you look at Irish stories, and you look at the invasions of Ireland, and you look at how it's connected, and you see these beings relate more to divine beings than men. Always. Whenever we look back at higher races, they get more and more divine. If you play the Assassin's Creed games, you would know that there was the higher people that created mankind as like a slave race, and then some sort of event happened, a solar flare event that wiped their entire population out. And as the Assassin's Creed games, you're kind of unraveling that story. At least you used to. I don't know about anymore. So what is that all saying? When I was looking into that stuff, these modern games, because I'm a modern person, that's how I got my information, I was like, what is all this? They're all kind of echoing something that feels like good, feels right. When you hear the right stuff, it feels right. So I go back, and that's how I discovered Timaeus. And that's how I really looked at the Sumerian flood myth. That's how I saw it echoed in a couple other civilizations. And I was like, man, why are they all saying the same thing from different areas? And we just kind of copying each other. And if indeed we are copying each other, why are we telling the same story? Let's pretend that it is like, oh, I just copied him and he copied me and blah, blah, blah. Why are we doing that? Why do we keep saying the same story? So it was my journey to discover the truth of all this as best I can for an uneducated person such as myself. So in my books, we'll kind of wrap it back in here. The world has gone through changes many, many times. We have the creation of Euandra, but we have the gods fighting. These gods are fighting these gods, the Titans and the Aeon. What are they fighting for? Just survival, at least for the Aeons, but like as the Titans, to stop this, because the world was made as a perfect image, but it's being destroyed by the Aeon and their beings. And we can see it happening. If we look at the planet, we see conflicts going on. Watch the Prelude to the Trade War series if you want to understand what I mean by that. You can see there's stupid shit going on, where politics and all the junk that we fucking end up doing as people. The Aeon are just fighting for survival. But they at the same time need to be freed. So in that freeing, the cessation of the battle can finally be at a standstill. But when we think about the Aeons and the Titans duking it out in the astral realm, the gods fighting, I think there was some sort of stalemate. And this is something I heard about God and the devil in Christian understanding. When God and the devil had this kind of understanding, like, okay, if I can prove to you that they will deny you, I can have dominion over this place. If they deny me, then, I'll stop, or however it goes. It's like a court scene. It's like, I will show you the evidence that they don't care about you, says the devil. And God took on this. He's like, yeah, of course, we'll let this play out, and it's the destiny's in their hands now, right? It's just an echo of why God's silent to us. That's kind of what's happening in the book as well, where Thais and Oapake are saying, okay, Oapake, you birthed yourself in this fucking place, and you fragmented yourself. I'm going to allow that to happen. And in that, whatever you become whole in the realm of the material realm, that being will have to decide the damnation of this entire place. Will he allow it to stay, or will he destroy it? Will he destroy this place? But it keeps playing out over and over and over and over again. The flood myth keeps happening. In my mind, it kind of comes natural, but it also, of course, you're influenced by these stories because they barely kind of touch you, but they're everywhere. And so I said, there's got to be some sort of decision of this world that is happening. There's got to be these higher beings that are in conflict. Now, that's all happening in my mind as the writer with those beings that are all happening down there. I've showed you the fucking multi-dimensional video. What about the ones above me? When I was saying that this all helps me understand the gods above me, it's helping me through my own accessing of the imagination, birthing myself into that ethereal place. It's allowing me to unravel the stories that might have happened before me. So that's why it's this fractal thing. As the writer of all this shit, I explore my own mind, and inside my own mind, it's unlocking these clues. From that point, I feel like I'm being led to do this. I feel like some being wants this to happen. I saw there was a comment that said something along the lines of be careful because of some guy named Lord Dunsey in the H.P. Lovecraft series made or talked about a being that will undo the fabric of the world. Right? Is what the comment said. Along those lines. And I was like, how did you know what the story's about? So it's like, I'm well aware that there are more to what's happening than what our choices are. That the conflict can be happening between higher beings than us, and we can never truly perceive it. And we are just players in it, you know? When the Greek gods in their stories were up to their little shenanigans up there in Mount Olympus, and it just affected mankind down there, and now all of a sudden the Trojan Wars are going on. It's stupid. It's just like, what the fuck is all this stupid shit? Because the gods keep intervening and playing stuff. It's something that we've always understood. So when I worked on my book, I thought, well, I can't just say Anaku and mankind exist and blah, blah, blah. They gotta be subject to these higher beings and their fucking bullshit. Oh, great, our gods are fighting, so we have to fight. Awesome. And even above that, those gods are being manipulated by something else. So it's a whole series of events that just can be difficult to unravel. And that's the main point of the stories, is like, at what point is this all worth it? Because it's my major goal to like have Eris, like the main hero, have him go through this story and realize you're the chosen one, you're the chosen one, and he's got to figure out what that fucking means. And then he realizes that within him is a god, and this god needs to find his memories again. This god needs to become whole again. For certain elements of this god lie in places in this world, scattered all about, within people and places. This god needs to remember how to defeat Theus again. But Theus keeps fucking thwarting him at every turn. He has different agents that work against Oapake. And Oapake has to fight in an astral realm. Well, his brethren have to fight in the astral realm, the other titans, while he's stuck in the realm of creation. And slowly, more and more, is he becoming mad. But he's got to work through Eris. Eris is his physical conduit in this place. But his mind is being addled, and it's being changed and shifted, and he's going fucking nuts because of all this information striking him. And when Eris comes face to face with his creator, he has to make the decision. The creator says to him, imagine your fucking god sitting down before you like, okay, listen. There's something within you. You are a part of me, and I need you to discover the truth. Or fucking don't. It's your decision. And he's fucking like changing. He's like, no, it isn't your decision. It's my decision. Fuck you. But then he's like, I'm sorry. I can't control myself. And only you can. And you see your God going through all this stuff, and it's driving him crazy. But that's inside of you. That's in your own mind. And so you have these conflicting thoughts, and they kind of melt into your emotions. And so your emotions become conduit for the God's astral being, and so those emotions start to take shape, and they start to take malevolence in some of them. So imagine, you know, your sorrow is given animus, and it becomes the spirit of sorrow. Imagine your anger, the spirit of anger, and all this exists in Eris, and he's trapped it within himself. unknowingly, because he's none the wiser to all this shit. But when he starts learning this, you know, I'll get into that later. That's like later book stuff. But his God presents him with this situation, and before he leaves, his God's like, it's all up to you. The decision to fall is all up to you. And Eris is like, fucking me? Like, I'm nobody. I'm nothing. What do you mean this is up to me? I can't do this shit. And the gods was like, well, you've done it before, and you'll do it again until you get it right. But before you leave, humor me in one thing. I want you to tell me, and I want you to find out, why did she betray me? And Eris like, what? And then he remembers the stories of old. He remembers the forgotten king, Oapik. The reason he was he became trapped in the realm of creation was he was tricked by his own wife, the queen. And he never forgave her for that. And for thousands of years he'd stewed in his anger, first of all trying to discover, did she really die? Because that's what he thought happened. Or was she tricking me? And he can't get that out of his mind, so he tells his creation, can you just look into that? Tell me if it's true. I need to know if it's true. But that's your call, says him again, all of a sudden changing his emotions. It's like, no, that's not, well, I mean, never mind, but that's your call. And so as Eris comes back to reality, he's faced with, yeah, you have to become the hero for Oapik and discover the things he wants you to discover. But then you go back to mankind and you're like, oh my God, great, you're the prophet. What did God tell you to do? We've been working for thousands of years as us monks to unravel his secrets. What are we going to do to help you? And then this other group of people are like, oh my God, you are so dangerous because they follow Theus. Like, we have to destroy him. He's a problem. Then you have another group of people, a neutral party that needs Eris for their own specific reason. And so we have so many conflicts, and this kid he's like 17 years old. He's supposed to just like, okay, time to figure out and unravel the secrets of the universe. You know, it's, everything I said before is how it can be. Multiple gods at multiple games, multiple things happening. A history of the world that was reflected by our real life history or the mythologies of it. But when you get down to the nitty gritty, when you get down to the truth of the story, which is about Eris, and having to unravel the unknown aspects of everything that came before him, and to realize the God within himself needs him to unravel the mystery of his downfall, but reawaken that God in the material realm. There's a lot of conflict there. Of course he's going to be fucking confused. I'm confused half the time when I'm trying to figure out the best way to tell this story. But that was the importance of the multidimensional beings that exist, because it just complicates the story, and you have to unravel and discover all of its secrets. It's up to you to discover that. You can't just... It was never my intention to make a boring, simple, another fantasy book about this fucking hero who's got to save the world. I thought there's more to it, and by the end of it I was like, what if he needs to destroy the world? What if we are getting this wrong? What if we keep fixating on, oh man, I gotta survive because I gotta keep living? What if you aren't meant to? And that's a call that you have to make. Are you meant to be here or not? Are you a mistake or are you divine? And that's the major purpose of Eris and his story. I swear if that's going to reflect mine, that's fucking crazy. I'm just going to be like, yeah, destroy it, whatever. People can't handle it anyway. But that's that. And we're going to move on to the next thing.